Welcome to the Sageology podcast, where your host Sage shares her astrological and spiritual insights. Sit back, relax, expand your perspective, and enjoy.
Hello, everyone. So, welcome back to another episode of the Sageology podcast. My name is Sage, the astrologer, and today we're going to be talking about the astrology of August. So, we're going to be discussing the transits for the whole month of August. Let's just dive straight into it. But before I dive into the astrology, I do want to say I hope that you guys are well, and I hope that y'all are having a great day, a very positive time. Okay, so I have a workshop where I do what I'm about to do with y'all in person, and I usually say a prayer before we get into it. And I did not go into this podcast episode with the intention of saying this prayer, but I do believe that I'm going to go ahead and say it just because it is beneficial. And I do want to set the intention that I use astrology as a tool of self-development, for personal development, for self-development. They have a lot of people that use astrology in a fear-mongering way, and that's just not who I am, and I never want anyone to get that impression by listening to my podcast or by watching my videos. So let's go ahead and say the Say Saturday prayer. So, dear divine God of the eternal universe, we thank you for allowing us to gather in your presence today. As we convene, we seek to discuss the celestial synchronicities that you love for us to discover, but not to validate our ego's need for control, not to use as a crutch, nor evade faith and trust, but in efforts to humble ourselves, embrace wisdom, and navigate life in a way that allows us to maximize our greatest potential. So open our hearts, God, and allow them to be overcome with the energy of love. We humbly ask for your grace as we journey through the blessings and lessons of life. We pray for your guidance and for the wisdom necessary to receive it in our hearts. Allow us not only to surrender to your will, but direct it with elegance. Please grant us the privilege to flow with the cosmic energies of your universe and embrace alignment. Let this space be a conduit of growth and self-development. And most importantly, we pray that we are safe spaces and resources for each other's highest good. Amen. Okay, so yay. It felt good to do that. I'm happy that I did that. But let's just dive straight into this and get into the astrology for the month of August. I really do like August. We're having a Mercury retrograde during this month, but I do feel like this is a very beautiful month to just slow down and be in the present moment, because come September, we are going to be thrown into the eclipse season. If you know anything about eclipses, and this fall is going to be pretty interesting too. So I do think that August is a very good, calm, grounded month, nothing crazy, nothing out of the blue. So it's perfect to use this time. You may experience some minor inconveniences because Mercury retrograde, and that's okay, that's fine. But I do think it's good to use this time to just be in the present moment and appreciate life before things start to before we go into another cycle of dramatic changes. So coming into the month of fall, of course, we are in Leo season. Happy birthday, Leos. And we have Mercury in Leo. So in the beginning of fall, Mercury is retrograde, and throughout the month we'll be dealing with that, and it is going to station direct before the month is over. And Venus in Cancer is a really good transit. So this is about really nurturing yourself and self-care. And we also have Jupiter in Cancer as well, which is really good. Jupiter in Cancer is big on, of course, the themes of nourishment and self-care and having your needs met, as well as the things that you need to survive, right? But when Jupiter first ingressed into Cancer, it was kind of hard to see the positivity and the more positive things that we are supposed to be experienced and associated with this transit, because Jupiter was square Saturn. So if you are not like super into astrology, basically what that means is that we are in a point of time where certain areas of our life we are supposed to be experiencing blessings, and those blessings are supposed to come a little bit easier. And generally, it's supposed to be easier for us to have faith right now, to embrace faith, to feel that positivity about, being at ease and being in flow and being more so optimistic. But we had a counteracting energy that was putting up obstacles. So you could have been in a situation where you were feeling faithful or you were feeling optimistic about something, and then something happened and you're just kind of like, damn, like, like what's going on now, like what we're doing now, right? But I'm sorry, y'all. I'm like rearranging myself. If you're watching on YouTube, that's what's going on. But on the positive side of that, with Venus going into this sign, which is another benefic, which means Venus is another good planet. With Venus coming into the sign, it's going to be a little bit easier for us to start to feel the positivity of those blessings and to like relax in that, Mars and Virgo. Mars and Virgo, that's really about strategizing, having a game plan, kind of knowing what you want to do. Mars is our action, right? Mars is our action, Mars is our willpower, Mars is our ego. And to achieve those things, those Martian qualities are being actualized in the sign of Virgo right now for the month of August. So this can look like, like having a strategy, having a game plan, thinking throughout the thoughts and the details of things. But we do want to worry about being obsessive, and we do want to be cautious of being more so control freak, because the South Node is in Virgo as well. So the South Node in astrology just represents things that we are supposed to kind of let go of. And Virgo has this tendency to be a perfectionist, to be overly right, to be overly clean. With Mars there, we can put our energy into this idea, this belief, or this notion, or even just this desire to want things to be right, to want things to be perfect, to not make mistakes. But at this point in time, that is not really serving us. So we want to make sure that we kind of release control and more so be in flow, even though we're going to have this natural inclination to problem solve by knowing all the details, by knowing every little thing that's happening, that's occurring. So larger, right? We have Saturn in Aries. So Saturn is in Aries at the beginning of this month. So that is like a little foreshadow, a little glimpse of this transit. Saturn is going to retrograde back into Pisces. Saturn is going to be in Pisces during fall, going into winter. And then Saturn is going to retrograde back into Aries. So we're just kind of having a little preview about what Saturn and Aries means right now before we go back and finish out this cycle of Saturn being in Pisces. So Saturn and Aries themes, I do believe that, okay, we have these outer planets that move very slowly, right? Being Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, all of these outer planets, they move very slow. They take a long time to go through the zodiac. But in the year 2025, coming into this year, every single planet has shift signs. So we're dealing with a lot of new energy. Pluto has shifted into Aquarius. Uranus has shifted into Gemini. Neptune has shifted into Aries. These planets move very slowly. Saturn, it takes about 2.5, 3 years to get through a sign, right? Saturn has shifted into Aries. That's new energy. Jupiter takes about a year to get to move through a sign, right? Jupiter has shifted into Cancer. So we are dealing with all of these slow-moving planets at the beginning of different signs. So we're being inundated with a lot of new energy. And even though it takes Saturn about 3 years to get through a sign, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, it does not. And all of these planets have crossed into new signs. So I do think Saturn and Aries archetypically is going to be the beginning of dissecting this Neptune and Aries energy, this Uranus and Gemini energy, this Pluto and Aquarius energy, because what does this mean in our personal lives? What does this mean in the collective? How are these planetary shifts going to play out in our society? And we can see a little bit of that geopolitically right now. We can see a lot that is changing politically throughout the world. We can see a lot that is changing in our economy. We can see a lot that is changing with that technology. You know, the rise of AI, all of these different things. We're going to see a lot of changes that's happening with our workforce. And so in astrology, Saturn kind of represents the elder, right? It represents wisdom. It represents slow moving energy. It represents ancient wise energy, and it also represents, you know, like people who know what they're talking about, who've been on this earth for a long time and know what to do. And of course, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So the sign Aries is archetypically representative of a very new energy, very fresh energy, right? So it's like we are these old people who are existing in this outdated society, who has the beliefs of an outdated society, and we find ourselves in a completely new environment. So we are breaking our brain, we're breaking our habits, Saturn, we're breaking our old structures, Saturn, to fit in this newness, this new environment that we find ourselves in, which is Aries. So this is this is kind of what I feel Saturn and Aries represents. So we're dealing with this energy right now, but like I said, it is going to retrograde back into Pisces, going into fall, but I am getting a little bit ahead of myself here. But I said all that to say, just to lay the framework of what we're working with before I kind of get into the transits that are going to be taking place come August. So on the 1st, I am going to say the dates for people who are listening to this as a podcast episode instead of watching the video. August 1st, 2025, we have Venus in Cancer square Saturn retrograde in Aries and Neptune in Pisces. Because Saturn and Neptune are moving so closely together, if we have one planet that is aspecting Saturn, it's probably aspecting Neptune too, either the same day or the next day. So I feel that on the 1st is really going to be about nurturing yourself through growing pains, and also finding out what nurture means for you, right? So this aspect is taking place in cardinal energy. And cardinal signs is all about initiating newness, new things, new routines, right? And Venus in Cancer is really dealing with care. So it's at this phase in my life where I am now, how am I caring for myself? What structures do I need to have in place to care for me, to provide for me? What is going to make me the most productive, right? So this can look like things like meal prepping. Again, Saturn is that structure that we need, you know? So this can be, in order for me to be productive and to meet my goals and to get out of my house on time, I need to have meals prepared that I can just reheat, eat, and go on the go. So discipline, Saturn's all about discipline. So meal prepping, working out, keeping your house clean, making sure you have a system of cleanliness, having those systems and structures in place that relate to self-care that is going to help you be more productive. And even if we think about it, Aries is masculine energy, right? And Cancer is feminine energy. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was saying something along the lines of having masculine structures in place so you can exist harmoniously in your feminine energy. And I do think that's what this transit is about. So Saturn is creating those masculine structures and having those masculine structures in place. So having a schedule, knowing what you're going to eat, knowing what time you're going to be waking up, you know, knowing what plans and things that you have to do this day. So you can just kind of exist more so in that soft Venusian Cancer energy that you can almost turn your brain off and not think about it. So I know that I have this plan, so I'm not creating like stress of in my daily routine of, oh, I need to do this, oh, I need to do that, oh, this is not done, da, 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 da. And you end up getting off track or spending unnecessary money or experiencing delays because you don't have that structure and routine in place. So you may be in a period of time where your structure, your routines are changing, and you have to figure out what that means for you in this season and kind of, do that. So August 6th, 2025, we're going to have Mars enter Libra. Um, so Mars does not do well in the sign of Libra, but I do believe this is a good thing. Um, so Mars is our action, it's our ego, it's our vitality, it's our ability to defend ourselves, to advocate for ourselves, it's our ability to problem solve, it's our ability to go to war over what we feel is right, what we want, what we feel is justice, what we feel is safe, right? And so Mars likes to do these things in just an outward, direct way. But being in Venus sign of Libra, Mars has to be a little bit diplomatic. So throughout the month of August, we're gonna find ourselves in situations where you may not necessarily just be able to say how you feel and let that be that. You may have to navigate situations with more grace and with more slyness. So you're going to have to understand the perspective of the other person. You're going to have to use your logic. You're going to have to use your reasoning and your mind as a resource to navigate your problems. So it's not about being outwardly harsh or aggressive to figure things out and to get what you want, right? It's more so about playing the field, taking in the information, seeing the problem, putting yourself in the place of the problem, in the shoes of the problem, and truly like understanding what it is. And problem solving and figuring that out and using that as a way and a means to navigate your problems. And it could also look like just being in a situation that you can't necessarily do nothing about. But if you're in a situation where you can't do anything about, it is an opportunity for growth. You know, it's forcing you to change your perspective. It's forcing you to change your thoughts and how you think about things. And ultimately, I do feel like this is very, very good for healing as well. Like I said, we have Mars, which is our action planet, going into a more relaxed state, and we have Mercury being retrograde, which is just a signal for us to slow down, to have like a little bit more grace, because often that comes with different obstacles, different setbacks, or even just us being in a reflective energy. So there really is this call in August for us to be a little bit more nurturing to ourselves with the Venus and Cancer and Jupiter and Cancer energy, and a little bit more reflective with this Mercury retrograde energy, and introspective with this Mars entering a Libra energy. So this is not the time to be all rah rah and external and going through things. This is more so the time of, asking people questions, asking yourself questions. How do I feel about this? Asking someone else, how do you feel about this? Considering the context clues, the details, and the perspective of the situation. Um, and then we have August 8th, 2025. Mars will make a trine to Uranus in Gemini, and then Mars will oppose Saturn in Aries. So let's start with this trine to Uranus in Gemini. This transit is going to boil down to being able to keep up with unexpected change and being humble throughout that. Mars and Libra has an air of humility that we have to embrace and accept during this time, just because you're not going to be able to, unless you have a lot of air placements for Mars and Libra natally, meaning if you don't have this in your birth chart, you may not be able to go after your problems or problem solve in a way that you are naturally inclined to do so, right? Um, and Uranus and Gemini is going to bring forth unexpected situations. It's going to bring forth change, and it could be rapid change. You can, on this day of like August 8th, around this time, you can be thrust into a new situation, or you could be presented with new information, or you could just find something in your reality changing, and you do not necessarily know what to do with the information or how to, go about it, or, it's just like not knowing what to do. But it's like, okay, I have to keep up. This is not necessarily something that I could just like brush off and let it be that. Like, no, I have to keep up with this unexpected change. I have to figure out what I'm going to do, how I'm going to navigate the situation, right? And to find the answers to your questions, it may come from an unexpected source. So you may get information from someone who you don't necessarily want to listen to, that's going to tell you the right thing to do. So this could be a situation where, because Gemini and Aries is very like new, young energy, right? So this could be a situation where, you tell your child to do something and they ask you a question like, oh, well, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? But they're right. And you're like, oh shit, like, what do I say? I don't want to listen to this kid, but this kid is making a really good point. And this kid actually has the answer to my questions. So this could be like a situation where you're trying to figure out an issue with technology or how to do something. You have an issue with your TV, and like your snarky teenager just goes on TikTok and be like, "Oh, mom, do this," or your kid is just like, "Oh, this is how you do this," and you're just kind of like, "What the hell?" But you gotta take the information because that's the solution to your problem. Um, yeah. So again, like that the theme of being humble and learning from someone, even if you don't necessarily like who it's coming from. And with that Mars opposing Saturn, it could be another stalemate in energy. It could be another sense of having to be not stagnant, but having to be patient and just having to wait because you are navigating a situation that you don't necessarily have the tools to navigate. So it is going to take a little bit of patience and humility for you to get through whatever you need to get through. So on August 9th, we're going to have Mars and Libra oppose Neptune and Aries. This is the day of the Aquarius full moon as well. So let me say this. So these little couple days of August, when Mars first enters Libra, it could be very, very challenging. So starting August 6th through about August 14th, like that whole little week, it can feel really frustrating just because you're going to be introduced to a series of new problems. Or it can be that you are you're having to learn how to be rethink being action oriented, right? Or rethink how your natural what word do I want to say? Your natural inclinations of doing things will not be serving you in this moment. So it can feel really frustrating But if you surrender to, look, I'm going to allow this to be a learning opportunity. I'm going to allow this to stretch and grow my brain instead of just being frustrated because you're in a whole bunch of situations that you don't understand. Like, lean not to your own understanding and really don't lean into that frustration. August 9th could overall just be really confusing with Mars opposing Neptune in Aries. So it can be like, this is kind of the energy of when they have, okay, so let's say they have this man, right, and he's going on a date. And the woman is like like the last date that he's been on was this woman who was a super feminist. So he opened the door for her and he was like, oh, shit. And she was like, open my own door. Oh, why are you open the door for me? Or he could have reached to pay for the food. And she was like, you think I'm broke? Like, I can pay for my own food. I'm a woman. Respect me, treat me as equal. So he's out on a date with a new woman, and this man could not know what to do. It's like, okay, should I open her door? Should I not open her door? Should I pay for the food? Should I not pay for the food? It's kind of like area of confusion, right? Of just like, what the hell do I do? But my advice for this day is to try and stray away from like your own ego. Now, I do think that this full moon is a really, really special one. It's definitely it's really interesting and I really like it. And I do think it's going to be a blessing in one area of our life, in a sense of frustration in another area of our life. But I'm not going to get into this because I'm going to drop a full moon breakdown. Duh. I'm going to have an episode of this on my podcast. So if you want to know more about this um, Aquarius full moon energy and this Mars opposite Neptune and Aries energy, listen to my full moon podcast that is coming out August 9th. See you then. So let's go ahead to August 10th. So here we'll have Mars and Libra, Mars and Libra making a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. So again, this is like being thrown off your game and having to develop new strategies. Like Mars and Libra is go really be working our mental muscle, which I think is a good thing because honestly, people have forgotten how to think, especially in the age of era and ChatGPT. I will be using y'all brains for nothing. But hopefully you will be in situations that encourage you and challenge you to use your brain and work that mental muscle a little bit because that's still important no matter what's going on. So Pluto in Aquarius is all about innovation and encouraging people to evolve, right? So whenever we are dealing with inner planets, whether that be, the moon, Venus, Mars, when we are dealing with these inner planets that are aspecting Pluto and Aquarius, it's going to be an upgrade of that energy in some sort of way. Pluto is still in the very, very beginning of Aquarius, and this is an extremely impactful transit that's initiating us into a completely different reality. So you're going to, and also to Mars, representing our ego a bit. This could be a little bit of an ego death as well, and like having to be humble. The Sun and Mars, right? They represent our ego in astrology. The Sun is exalted in the sign of Libra. No, the Sun is. I'm sorry, y'all. I meant the opposite. The Sun has its fall in the sign of Libra. The Sun is exalted in the sign of Aries. The Sun has its detriment in the sign of Aquarius, and the Sun rules, this domicile is in the sign of Leo. So we're dealing with Libra and Aquarius energy. This energy is very communal. It considers the perspectives of other people. It seeks out information to widen its perspective and learn and grow. It's not self-serving energy. You're not just going to be able to do what you want to do. You're not going to just be able to do what you feel like doing. So the best thing that you can do if you find yourself in a situation where you're navigating a problem that you're not used to navigating is to seek out more information, to ask someone who does. It can be very triggering to have your ego triggered. It could be very, very triggered, especially if you are coming from like, we're so egotistical, especially when you're coming from this egotistical perspective of, oh, I'm a human, I'm supposed to get everything done right on the first try. I'm this, I have this title to my name, I got these letters behind my name, I got this much money in my bank account. Like, whose life to slow me down and present me with these obstacles that I don't fucking know how to navigate? You know, like we could be so egotistical, but if you can like take a step back and just be like, okay, God, what are you trying to show me? Universe, what are you trying to show me? How can me interacting with this problem, with this situation, with this circumstance, could get me more prepared to navigate a world that I don't necessarily know that I'm in? And this is why paying attention to these transits is so important. Because if you do the inner work, and if you can be intentional and pay attention during these days, God is going to secretly be preparing you and updating your energy for a timeline that you don't know that you are in yet. We as astrologers, right, spiritualists, whatever the fuck you want to call it, we have an idea of what we think Pluto or the age of Aquarius is going to be like. We have an idea of what we think the age of Aquarius is going to be like. We have an idea of what we think Neptune and Aries is going to be like. We have an idea of what we think Uranus and Gemini are going to be like. But having an idea of that shit and living that shit in reality, two completely different things. So when shit starts hitting a fan, we're all at the beginning of this energy. So we're seeing little blips. We're seeing little glimpses of the age of AI with ChatGPT. Like we're seeing little glimpses of war with the conflicts that are happening that I'm not gonna speak about. But y'all know the conflicts that are happening in globally with countries that start with P and I, with countries that start with U and R, with countries that sound like WINA. You know, like we're seeing little glimpses and peaks of this because we're in the beginning, we're in the baby version of this energy. But when shit hit the fan, you may not know what the fuck to do. And a lot of people are being delusional about the little glimpses that we are seeing. But y'all don't know how you gonna feel, what space you're gonna be, or how that's genuinely gonna affect your real life when shit start getting real. Shit already real, but when shit start getting really real. You know what I mean? So if we can do the inner work on these days when we have these planets like Venus and Mars aspecting planets like Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, if we can allow ourselves to be uncomfortable and flex our mental muscle, I promise you, you will be way more prepared than your average Joe, than an average person when shit start hitting the fan. So just take that time to sit and to do the inner work. Because if you sit and you do the inner work and you allow God to guide you, if you allow God to guide you, when you look up, you're going to be in alignment and you're going to be less affected than people who are just like fighting against the energy, who are struggling during the energy, which is why, you know, astrology is so important. Because if we can understand the time that we're in now and the time that we are going into, it will help us be better prepared to guide it. You know, like there's a difference between, and I say this with the most care because I know COVID was a tragic thing that tragically affected a lot of people's lives. But there's a difference between people who are prepared to deal with that pandemic versus people who were completely not prepared. And there's a difference between the people who were not prepared but surrendered to it and did what they needed to do, versus the people who fought against it the whole time. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, let's get into the 11th. August 11th, 2025. Saturn in Aries, sextile Uranus in Gemini. And then we're going to have Mercury station direct. So I like Mercury stationing direct because this is for movement. So before this time, in the beginning of August, like late July, dealing with this Mercury retrograde energy, it slowed us down in some aspects. I also do believe that Mercury being retrograde in Leo kind of called for us to question our identity a little bit, question how we wanted to show up a little bit. But since we've been working through that, you kind of have a little bit forward moving, more understanding. Okay, like this is how I want to show up. This is how I want to present. This is how I feel about this. This is how I feel about that. So Saturn in Aries, sextile Uranus in Gemini. This is again struggling to find discipline amidst changing growth. So it's kind of like, okay, like what do I do? Uranus in Gemini is new situations being thrown at you, new information, new technology being thrown at you, and Saturn in Aries is how am I going to work this newness into my system? How am I going to work this new information, this new technology into my system? And this could also be changes to like little annoying shit. It could be like your neighborhood. You're used to going to y'all, I live in rural Louisiana. So if you live in a little bit more like urban place, you may not get this analogy, but just like pretend, But this could be like you're used to going to the fucking city council building to pay your water bill or whatever. And then the city is like, oh, now you have to have a smartphone and download this app. And the only way you can pay your water bill is through downloading this app and paying it online. You could be an old person that's like, I have a flip phone. How the fuck do I pay my water bill online using this app? Like, why are y'all doing this? So it could just be a kind of like a situation like that. Or it could be a situation like, a lot of times it could be like business structure changing, policy changing. We're using this new technology. So now you got to figure out how to use AI and automate your business, or you got to figure out this new technology, this new app. Like, your office is upgraded from one laptop to another laptop, Microsoft Teams to fucking something else. So you're just like kind of okay, like how I'm gonna go use this constructively, how am I gonna work with this type energy come August 11th. So on the 12th, okay, y'all, this is the best day of the month. I love this transit so much. This is such a good transit. So I'm trying to see if I have any notes I wrote down for this. Yeah, this is the best day of the month. So August 12th, Venus in Cancer conjunct Jupiter in Cancer. I love this because this is going to bring clarity around blessings that we can expect from one particular area of life. So if you know what house Cancer is in your chart, you know that you're going to be experiencing blessings associated with that one area of life. Or if you have Cancer placements, you know that you can be seeing blessings associated with that, with the theme of that planet in Cancer in your personal chart or whatever, right? But like I said, Jupiter in Cancer is going to be bringing us blessings. Like we can expect positive things, we can expect positive changes, constructive energy from this one area of life. And it may have been hard to see. When Jupiter first went into Cancer, it could have been like you were teased about these realities. But remember, it was making a Saturn, so Saturn was there too in Aries. So it's like blessings were wanting to come through, but you have these little obstacles or certain responsibilities. Like, okay, you could have been planning a vacation. I'm planning a vacation. I want to go to Bora Bora. I want to go to Costa Rica. Like next thing you know, you gotta repair a leak in your roof. And you're like, damn, I want to travel. Now I have to spend this unexpected money fixing a leak in my house, like repairing something in my house. And you kind of like, what the heck? And so it could be something like that. It's like something that you wanted to do, or let's say you have this new experience and you wanted to go on this new experience, but like a family member ended up getting sick, or your best friend baby daddy died, and now you gotta stay, with her and help her or something. Like, it's like you can want to do something, but something to stop that initial desire from fully manifesting. So on this day, whatever particular area of life where you are supposed to be seeing blessings should be made abundantly clear. So you should experience something positive on this day, which is good. I really do like this. I love this energy. So whereas first it could have been a little bit hard to experience those Jupiter and Cancer blessings, it's like, kind of like, what's the point? Now with Venus there, he's like, okay, yeah, this is definitely a good thing. This is definitely a positive thing. And this is good for Cancer energy overall. So it's good for money. It's good for friendship. It's good for connection. It's good for self-care. It's really good for all of these things. And it's also really good for like having a sense of faith and optimism. So if you are a person, y'all, look, I'm gonna tell y'all, like, come November, things are gonna get weird. So if you are the type of person where you like to have little um in your dark moments, memos of positivity. This is something that I personally like to do. Like, if I know, as an astrologer, if I know I'm going to be visiting a bad transit, or if I know I'm going to come into a time where my faith is going to be tested, I'm going to document my optimism and how I feel about that moment so I could come back to it and experience it and read it. So, whether it's like, okay, I'm gonna plan this amazing day and I'm gonna take pictures. So when you like, it's the middle of winter and you sad and depressed, you can go back and look at those pictures that you took on August 12th and be like, you know what? My life is still good. And even Jupiter is gonna go retrograde. Like, Jupiter is direct right now, but Jupiter goes retrograde. And whenever Jupiter goes retrograde in the sky, that is a test of our faith. That is a test of faith. So if you are the journaling type person, I do feel like it's important when that blessing comes through. It's a really, really, really freaking good idea to journal or document that or pray, like take that moment and make it a staple. Be like, God, I experienced this blessing today. I really want to grow this. I really want to continue down this line. Like, I can see this happening for me. I can see that happening for me. Like, there's so much potential in this one little opportunity, and I really want to continue to grow and develop and nurture this energy. Like, document the good things. So when stuff happen in your life where you just like where it get a little bit testy, when it get a little bit shifty, shaky, you can come back to that moment and be like, yeah, God got me. The universe got me. Like, I know it's gonna get better. Best day of the month. I love that day. So come the 14th, August 14th, 2025, Mars in Libra sextile Mercury in Leo. So this is like new perspectives when it comes to rethinking new perspectives when it comes to your new thought processes around certain situations, and new perspectives when it comes to your identity. So with all these different energies that is going on, especially coming to eclipse season September, our identities are changing in some way. Versus like, last December you were single. Now your life should have drastically changed since January of 2025. If your life has not drastically changed since January of 2025, you should be deeply fucking concerned. Like, you should be terrified, honestly. Your life should have drastically changed in some sort of way during January 2025, and it have not. If no change comes September, that's really concerning. But anyway, so you should have experienced some growth, some sort of growth, and maybe your identity has changed in a certain way. So versus you're used to being a single woman, now you're a woman in a relationship. You're used to being someone who had all their kids at home. Now your kids are out the house. Like, you know, you are used to having this role and this position and this job. And now your role, your position, your job changed. Like, some about your identity should have changed since January 2025. And even when I was talking about from like the 6th when Mars entered Libra and like going up into really like today, us being presented with these new scenarios and little ideas, it could just be little shit, you know, like whenever when y'all hear me speak on this podcast, please take in what I'm saying with a grain of salt. And astrology is very like it's very literal, but a lot of times transits will play out. It don't even have to play out in a physical situation. Transits could play out in our mind alone. It could be like, you know, a bad transit could be you feeling insecure for a day. You know, you can feel insecure about your relationship for a day. You can feel insecure about your friendship for a day. You know, it could just be little things that are going on in your mind, or you being a mental block, or you contemplating something. A lot of times astrology can play out in a way like that. But anyway, so a new change in identity from the 6th, August 6th, to about right now, you being presented with these little situations, these new problems or whatever, and you're kind of like, dang, like, what do I do? How do I navigate this? I don't know how to feel. I don't know what's going on. So, and this could be like you finding that, or you starting to find that kind of like perspective that feels solid to you, or that perspective that feels solid enough. And it's like, okay, this is a good way of thinking about this. This is a good way of thinking about that. I feel this way about this. I feel this way about that. And it kind of taking off some of that pressure and kind of providing you a sense of relief, you know? August 15, 2025, Venus in Cancer, trying to North Node in Pisces. This is so good. If you are not a journaling person, I will take this time to journal, especially if you experience something again positive this day, or just like a glimpse of faith, like a peek into a new timeline, a peek into a better timeline, because the North Node, the nodes in astrology, North Node, South Node represents like destiny and fate, right? And with Venus in Cancer making a trine to North Node, that is like a glimpse into a positive reality. And so if you can have the sort of awareness when it comes to this, it could help you out a lot when it comes to eclipse season, the eclipses that we're going to be experiencing in September. So what could this look like, right, y'all? I have a concrete example. When earlier this year, I was going through a lot. Like, I had issues at my job. My grandfather was dying. I had issues at my house. Like, it was a lot. And I remember one day I took off work for just like a mental health day, whatever, because I was going through a lot. And I think that was the day where a transit, something like this was going on. Something making an aspect to the North Node. And I journaled what I did on that day, right? And so that day could have went to the back of my memory. It could have been insignificant. I could have very well, I don't even really remember what I did on that day. I know I stayed at home, I watched some TV and something else that I did. But when the eclipses hit and I look back at that day, because something else was falling out of my life and I felt insecure about it, I was like, God, do I let go of this thing? Like, what do I do? And I went back to that day when I journaled and I was like, and reading my journal, like, oh, I did this, this felt right. You know, I spent my day like this and this felt good to me. Throughout that time of like chaos and upheaval in my life, it's like this thing falling away is good. I know that I'm making a right decision. I know what direction I'm supposed to go. So that's why taking that time out to journal, even if you're not a journal person, y'all, I up in the voice memos in my iPhone. Do you hear me? When you first wake up, I document my dreams. I do like little mini recaps of the day. I literally voice memo, August 15, 2025. During this day, I went here. During this day, I went that. I was feeling really good. My best friend called me. We talk about da 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 da. 60 seconds, 30 seconds. Just do something that you can come back and revisit this energy if you need to. So when the wheels of fate and the wheel of fortune, the wheel of destiny starts spinning, you can feel less like being thrown here and there. So August 18th, Mercury and Leo, sextile Mars and Libra. And this is just kind of the repeat of the energy that we felt on the 14th. So it can just be like, okay, yeah, I know how I feel about this. I know how I feel about this. I know what perspective is proper for me to have. You don't necessarily, you don't like that having that perspective. You don't want to have that perspective. You're like, okay, but this is the fucking perspective that is serving me at this moment, so I'm gonna stick to it. And I'll be that. The 22nd, August 22nd, 2025, Sun enters Virgo. Welcome Virgo season. Happy birthday, Virgos. Oh my God, if you are a Virgo, let me warn you, September is go be that month for you. Like seriously. So if you are a Virgo, if you have Virgo placements, I'm telling y'all right now, get into the mood of surrendering that. You're gonna have to surrender it because yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be necessary. You're gonna have to let go of control. You're gonna have to be in service of others. You're not gonna have to worry about perfection or something. Or if God takes away something from your life, just let it be okay. Or you may have to rapidly change your perspective around something or how you relate to something. Like something in your life is gonna change if you are Virgo, have Virgo placements in coming up, especially in the month of September. I'm just warning y'all, like be ready for that, be prepared for that, and allow it to happen. Allow it to happen. Even if you don't have Virgo placements, but you know that Virgo house, whatever house Virgo is in your chart, if that is something that could be like impactful or meaningful to you, starting August 23rd, the Virgo new moon. I'm not gonna get into this with y'all because I want to have a podcast that comes out on this day, on August 23rd, talking about this new moon. So if you want more information on the Virgo new moon, please listen to my podcast. So I'll say this. This Virgo new moon is taking place at 0 degrees, y'all. Y'all, please listen to what I'm saying. This Virgo new moon is taking place at 0 degrees of Virgo. That is the very, very beginning of the sign. We have 2 Virgo new moons this year, but the other one is an eclipse. It's a solar eclipse, and it is taking place at 29 degrees. So we're having a new moon at the very beginning degree of a sign, and we're having a solar eclipse at the last degree of the sign, and then we're having a Pisces lunar eclipse in between. So Virgo, like these 3 lunations are going to be dramatic perspective shifts and changes for you. And so just to say, like, even if you don't go back and listen to my podcast, just know if something changes in your life, like it is okay. That is something to be perspected. That is something to be expected, and to just please surrender to that change. Come August 24th, we have the Virgo sun. Oh, I'm so sorry. Come August 24th, we're having the Virgo sun squaring Uranus in Gemini. So again, this is going to be a sense of wanting to have order when faced with upheaval and change, or wanting to order and make sense of new information a little bit before it's too soon. So kind of just like surrender to that a little bit. If you are thrown into a situation where something is changing, where your perspective has to change, where you relating to something has to change, like maybe just surrender to that a little bit and just let that be that, and don't try so hard to control it, because some things are simply uncontrollable. Some situations, some energy is too like outworldly for us to like organize and make sense of. So sometimes you just gotta surrender it, and you just have to let it go. If you are that type of person where you have to feel in control of something, say just like journal about it or talk about it to other people or focus on something that you can control. If something happened that's outside of your control, and that's again why I frame astrology and talk about it the way I talk about it. Because listen, it's only we can only control things to a certain extent. Like, use power, vote, whatever makes you feel comfortable about us being in the situations that we're in. But nobody can tell Donald Trump what to do. People vote for him, still can't. The whole party can't tell. Nobody can tell that man what to do. So it's only so much that you're actually in control of. But if we take control over the things that we for sure have control of, which is like our mindset, our thought process, our relationship with God, our relationship with trust, our relationship with surrender, our relationship to self-care, these are all our interpersonal relationships, our community. These are things that we have control over to some level. So when you are in situations that stress you out over some shit that you can't control, focus on what you can control, which is always going to be your doing the work. 25th, we have Venus entering Leo. And then when Venus enters Leo, it's going to trine Saturn retrograde in Aries. So Venus is shifting from Cancer to Leo. Venus being in Leo is really, really good. Venus being in Cancer is more so internal, like, oh, I'm gonna, like watch my chick flicks and do my face mask and smoke a weed in my bubble bath. Smoke a weed, smoke a blunt in my bubble bath. That's like Venus and Cancer stuff. I'm gonna make myself a really good meal and watch a rom-com. That's Venus and Cancer. I'm gonna journal about my feelings, my emotions. Venus and Leo is like, I'm that bitch. Everybody knows it. Everybody needs to see it. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I'll edit that out. But Venus and Leo is like, I'm that bitch. Everybody needs to saw it. Everybody needs to know it. Everybody needs to see it. Like, watch me pop my shit. So it's a little bit more like return of confidence. So Venus and Cancer being more internal, self-care, nurturing. Venus and Leo is more external. Like, I want to be seen. I want to take up space, appreciate me, appreciate my beauty. Or you just want to be out, you want to be seen, you want to, like have fun with friends, you want to be a little bit more social, all of that stuff. Venus and Cancer is still social too, but more so in like a quiet, soft way, where Venus and Leo is social and it's like drunk karaoke. So Venus is going to enter Leo. That's that shift. And then it's going to make a trine to Saturn and Aries. So again, Saturn is asking us, Saturn Aries is asking us, like, what does discipline look like? What is that going to look like? So, and Venus is what I want and desires. So it's, I want this, so blank is required. I want to wear this dress for this event, so observe. Like I want to go on this trip, so no eating out for a month, no going to Sephora for a month, whatever. So it's like whatever your desire is, however you want to be seen, however you want to be presented, however you want to take up space, you having to implement discipline in some sort of way so that desire can manifest for you. Then we're gonna have Mercury shadow, so we're completely out of the retrograde period. Somebody say hallelujah, somebody say amen. But we're completely out of the retrograde period. So if you had issues with I'll tell y'all what this retrograde did for me. This retrograde triggered my allergies, which is crazy. And I know why it did it, but still, like, that was so annoying for me because I'm dealing with allergies right now. This is not, no, like, I'm over this. Like, I don't have allergies. Like, what's going on? And I'm the type of person where it's like I take medicine when it's absolutely necessary for me. Like I have to be genuinely suffering. So no, I'm not about to take a fucking Zyrtec or Allegra. I'm just gonna sit here and suffer until they go away. So they're getting a lot better. Praise God. But not it's also shifts in my nervous system. But let's about it. My allergies are getting better. So happy about that. I know that's tied with this Mercury retrograde in Leo. But when Mercury leaves shadow, so any little snafus that you could have had, or Mercury retrograde, anywhere Mercury retrograde could have threw you off, or problems that you're working through, will be over now. So we can just look forward to forward progress, which is a good and positive thing. August 26, 2025. Venus and Leo, sextiling Uranus and Gemini. So again, like this could be a change in aesthetic spring social circles. I also again want to draw emphasis to this. If you are, when y'all telling y'all with these little inner planets, when Venus and Mars is doing stuff with these outer planets, when Venus and Mars or the moon or whatever, the sun is doing stuff with Uranus or Neptune and Pluto, it's gonna be little triggers, little glimpses of change. And if you make those little triggers, those little glimpses of change, when Uranus and Gemini is really Uranus and Gemini, or Neptune and Pluto is really Neptune and Pluto, Neptune and Pluto. Pluto and Aquarius or Neptune and Aries, like when we are out of this baby energy and it's like, oh, it could be this, versus we're firmly into this energy. If you pay attention to the little glimpses of these like minor transits, you'll be more prepared when that energy is firm in the astrology. I do genuinely feel like it's preparing us for that. And this energy is gonna go away. Like by December, we're not gonna be feeling it as much because Uranus is gonna retrograde back into Taurus. Neptune is gonna be back into Pisces. Saturn is gonna be back into Pisces. So it's going to feel like, okay, maybe we're going down here, then all of that is gonna stop. And you're like, oh, then we're gonna be in it again in a couple of months. So if you experience a change in your aesthetic, don't be resistant to that. If you are experiencing a change in how you like relate to people, if you are experiencing a change in your friendship, in your social circles, whatever no longer feels authentic to you, let that fall away. Like let that story be done. Don't fight against it. Don't create resistance. If you're like, you know what, I used to like to, party in this way or do this in this way, but this doesn't really resonate for me. Like this isn't fun anymore. Let it not be fun. I do think that could be. I genuinely feel in my heart of hearts that is God preparing us for a new reality that we are not necessarily seeing yet. Maybe a certain aesthetic. It's like upgrading our vibration, and we can upgrade our vibration in little subtle ways. So whereas you used to like wearing a certain thing a lot, and you don't like wearing that certain thing anymore. That could be a little change, a little shift in your vibration, that you're not paying attention to. You just think it's a sense of style. But that could lead to something else, and you meet people and blah, 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 blah. God works in mysterious ways. The universe works in mysterious ways. So don't fight against it, y'all. If you don't wanna, like party at this certain club no more, don't party at that certain club no more. If you feel more interested in sending coffee shops, if your Venus and Leo goes from you going to this bar every Tuesday at 6 o'clock to you being in this coffee shop at every Tuesday at 6 o'clock, like let those changes happen and just like surrender to them, because you never know how that is going to contribute to your growth and development on a larger scale. This is not a major transit. This is not a major transit. This is something minor. So it could just be something minor that kind of happens on this day. But pay attention to these little nuggets, these little glimpses into a new reality, into a bigger picture, because I do feel like it can serve you positively. On the 27th, we have Venus and Leo opposite Pluto and Aquarius. And again, this is like a shift in aesthetic, a upgrade to aesthetic, but Pluto and Aquarius can feel like a little bit of ego death, you know? So this can be somebody doing something that I have kind of a funny example. Venus and Leo is like a certain thing about vanity. So like you can think that you look good in something, right? So let's say you are like, wearing something, you think you look good, blah, blah, blah. And then like a kid at a grocery store calls you fat. And you like, I look fat, and you like, damn, maybe I do need to lose a little weight. Like Venus and Leo is kind of like vanity. It's want to show up, it's want to be seen. Pluto and Aquarius is gonna be a little bit of ego death every time. It's gonna be a little bit of I thought I was killing it, but I wasn't. Or you could think something about, like, oh, this person got my back, like this my bestie. Then your bestie say something weird, and you like, bitch, what? So it's gonna be allowed. Look, this probably gonna be an ego adjustment. So if it's an ego adjustment, let it be an ego adjustment. All right. 28. Neptune and Aries sextile Uranus and Gemini. Y'all, I think, this is the last one. I'm gonna say this. Pay attention. Listen to me clearly when I say this. Neptune and Aries sextile Uranus and Gemini. Lean not to your own understanding. Lean not to your own understanding, babe. You think you know, but you don't know. You think you got it figured out. I promise you, you don't have it figured out. You don't know what the fuck going on. Even if you feel like you do, I promise you, you don't. Okay? Like, don't bite off more than you can chew. Don't be too arrogant. Just shit look one way, but I promise you it's another way. Like, seriously, be humble. Be humble. This transit could really boil down to you having too much confidence for situations that are potentially dangerous. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay? So even though you feel like you got it, but some wild shit happening, also too, don't be doing nothing wild. Don't be doing nothing crazy on this day. Your friend want to go fucking water raft riding by yourselves. You ain't never did that before. Today is not the time to just go up and do it. Like, do the stuff that's in your comfort zone that you are used to doing. And if something happens, listen, if this could be another example, right? This could be you having like an electrical issue at your house and your husband like, yeah, man, I got it. I know I can fix that. I got it, babe. You don't have to call an electrician. I got it. The next thing you know, the power on the whole block is out. Like, you don't know. You don't know. It's okay. Like, don't overestimate your confidence. It's okay. Not at this day. If you want to wait a week later to go and try to do the same thing, fine. Maybe some common sense kicked in, or maybe the energy is a little bit more calm and suitable. But don't risk it on this day because you're probably overestimating your ability or capability. This has been my August forecast. This is my first time doing the August forecast like this. I really enjoyed it. I hope y'all enjoy it. I'll be back for September. Please be sure to listen to my podcast episodes for the new moon and full moon. You do not want to miss them, especially that Virgo new moon. What? And then that Aquarius full moon. So y'all want to come back and listen to both those. Those are really good. I think I'm going to have some really good things to say then. Also, too, I typically have a calendar, and I think I'm going to upload it to my website so you can download it. So if you would like to download a calendar for the month of August and print it out that has like all the little transits on it, you can very well do that. What else do I want to say? I'll be back September. You're gonna want to tune into September because September is eclipse season. And yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please send it to a friend, share it with a friend. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Sageology77. My website, Sageology77. Yeah, book a reading with me. if you would like my services. And if you listen to this whole thing, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. I love every single last one of y'all. I love you. I love you. I don't care when you're hearing this. I don't care if you're hearing this 30 years later and you're on some weird YouTube whole binge. I love you. And I pray that you feel that love. Thank you guys so much for listening and tuning in with me. And I pray that you have a very wonderful August. Bye.